Hi, everybody. It's good to have you here tonight as we do an interview with Alan Tung, who graduated UT in August 2022, and he began working for PepsiCo at the end of August. He got his degree in business analytics with a concentration in international business. But, Alan, so good to see you here. And I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about your journey to start out.
Yes, thank you so much, Brian, for giving me the opportunity to be here. And also, hello, everybody, and thank you guys for joining to this live stream and for me to talk about PepsiCo and about myself as well. So, a little bit about myself. I recently graduated August of 2022, as Brian has mentioned. My degree was in business analytics, and I had the opportunity also as a business analytics student with a concentration in international business to intern abroad twice. So I was able to go to London and have an internship, and also Copenhagen, Denmark, to have an internship as well. After my internships, I came back to the U.S. and graduated in August and applied. I mass applied to a lot of different jobs, but PepsiCo is one of those jobs that always stood out to me. Brian always had guest speakers that he brought in from PepsiCo, and that always talked about what they did for analytics, but also different departments. But the main thing that really interested me was the data analytics because I was a business analytics student. Brian Stevens was like the best professor I've ever had. He was the one who allowed me to see like, oh, I could code, oh, I could do data analytics. And so that's how I like decided to just like apply to PepsiCo and went through the interview process. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of analytics at PepsiCo. So yes, I can talk about what I do on a day-to-day basis, if that's what we want to start with as well.
Yeah, no, I want to encourage the audience. This is a participation. I think are you watching the chat also?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So Alan's watching the chat and I'm watching the chat. This is a participation stream right here. So please ask any questions. And Ria and Diamond, good to see you here. We have right here. I want to well, let's first ask that to start. Kind of what's your day-to-day job like? You said you graduated with business analytics. So what do you do with business analytics at PepsiCo?
Yes, so a lot of the tools that you'll be learning as a business analytics student, whether that's learning to code in R, SQL, and making visualizations is a really key part in the data analytics part of PepsiCo. So the team that I'm on is called EDAP, or Enterprise Data and Analytics Platform. And so a lot of my analytical tools that I use, mostly I use SQL. I have used R a few times here and there to make visualizations to showcase to leadership, but to also other data and analytics platform teams as well, or just other teams that focus on like data. So whether that's with the data science team, also with the architecture team and whatnot. And also the visualizations that we use in business analytics is also very important as well. Even though in PepsiCo we use Power BI, the skills in Tableau that you're learning in business analytics is also transferable to Power BI. So a lot of it is a lot of just looking at the data, cleaning the data, like what Brian teaches you, and using R to clean data. So when you get a data set, what's the most important things that you want to look at, but also what visualizations you want to make. You're having to think in like, say you were the executive of a company, right? So, for instance, I have a manager, and then above my manager is like another manager. So, say that's a director. So, if you were to present a visualization, what would the director want to see as a result? Or what would leadership want to see as a result? And I think that the business analytics course does a really good job at doing that because of all of the visualizations that you make, and also like if it's categorical data, you have to make like really good visualizations to showcase what you're trying to find and whatnot. And so a lot of what I do on my day-to-day basis is getting a lot of data with PepsiCo trying to go into the cloud. They have a lot of data that they're trying to transfer from Teradata into Azure DevOps. So I create a lot of automations using SQL logic in Azure DevOps. So these can be anywhere from simple query logic to complex query logic, which you will be learning in your information intro to like database course. And also, using R logic as well, because you're also wanting to find like correlation and statistical. You want to do a lot of data analysis with the data that you're given. So that's a lot of what I do with automation. To like, I use Power Automate, which is the automation tool that I use, because a lot of work that you'll notice in PepsiCo is very manual, and you want to bring value to the company. So making anything from a manual process to an automated process is a lot better, especially since we're moving into the cloud. And also, another thing that I'm doing at PepsiCo is I'm building an app actually for PepsiCo, and the tools that I'm using are SQL, Power BI, Power Automate, and also Power Apps. So what this app is currently doing is it's taking a lot of PepsiCo's financial data from an IT standpoint, and then building an app to basically any new records that are put in for finances will be recorded and will automatically send an automated email to the person who created the record, but also to the approver of the records. And so this will allow PepsiCo to look at how they're doing from a financial standpoint, specifically in IT, and see if they're able to meet the budgets that they have per year, or if they're missing like, or if their finances are not aligned, then how much money they're losing. So yes,
I think one thing you mentioned there that's so big is I heard this word mentioned multiple times: automation.
yes,
And I think one of the hardest things for students when it comes to coding, and thank you, Thomas, for being here. We'll talk more about, I think, IMNT 342 and SQL, because we want the ability to query this data and pull this data in. And you were talking about that, how you have this database. And then instead of every day remaking graphics, you could just automate a process to say, how are we doing this day? And things like Power BI, Tableau, and we can even do it with Shiny and R, can make it so you can just make a page someone can go to on a server. So you'd be running a computer that's constantly pulling this data. That's what a server kind of does. And then they go there and they say, okay, how are we doing today? And you could even have it automatically, like you're saying, to send emails, and then someone could be sent a daily report. So rather than someone's job being write up this daily report or this weekly report, well, if you know the numbers you need and you can just pull them, you can just have it automated for you with the code. And one last thing I want to mention, which is, Alan, thank you so much for all this good info. And we've got, please put questions in the chat, everyone, because I've got a few listed here. But it can't be, especially in the analytics world, it'd be really hard for someone to be at the top of the analytics field and just know R and just know SQL or just know Power BI. I think the people who are really doing some revolutionary things and excelling in the career have a lot of skill sets. And it's kind of like I consider us like the carpenters or the roofers of the business world, because we come in with all these tools and we can build things, we can create things. And it's really up to our imagination. So maybe what would you say to students who are, because a lot of people here are just starting their journey into coding, and I know it's really scary. Had you ever coded before 320?
yes. So
Okay.
I actually in high school I did like a computer science course, and I was coding in JavaScript, which when I applied to UT, I actually applied originally to be in computer science. But when I took that course, I actually thought, man, I just wasn't good at coding. And so I switched to business analytics, thinking it was more of like just the business side of things. But actually, when I got to 320, I was able to start coding again. And I was like, wait, the coding that I'm doing here makes more sense to me than coding in Java that I did in high school. And so like even as a beginner coder, whether you just started coding or whatnot, it's just like solving a puzzle. Whether you enjoy solving a puzzle or just solving any problems in general, the just being able to solve something that's like might be difficult, that feeling of happiness is like what I guess I really enjoyed about like business analytics. And yeah,
You mentioned something really big right there that, especially when it comes to R, which is one of the reasons we use R, because there's really the debate in the analytics world. You probably know R, or what would you say is the other one? You know, the other big language people use in our field, probably.
yes. So a lot of
Go ahead.
the business analytic or like any data analyst jobs or business analyst jobs, they're looking for R. SQL or Python.
Yep.
You can either learn R or Python, but I feel like with R it's really useful, especially with like data analysis. With Python, what you could do is you could make like scripts in Python to automate your work, which is also really cool to think about. Like, hey, I'm doing all this analytics, but I don't want to do it on a day-to-day basis. What if I automate it using Python instead? You know?
Yeah, and I want to go straight to Matthew's question. Well, I'll comment real briefly. I've seen probably one of the like the students that I've been shocked by like what they're capable of. A lot of times they'll know R and Python. I'm not that good at Python. You've got tuples there, is it? And you've got indexing at 0. I'm more of an R person, but we already have a question. Thomas, please keep giving all these questions because this is dedicated to the students tonight. I've got questions. So, Alan, the question is, how much and what kind of math skills are commonly used in business and data analyst workplaces? So, what kind of math are you doing these days?
I'm not really doing any math. To be honest, it's just mainly a lot of just analytical work. So just taking data sets and just looking at what would leadership like to see. So there's not really any math behind it. It's just, okay, here's the data set. I need to clean the data, make it look better, and then take that data and make visualizations. Because at the end of the day, leadership, all they really care about is how is the business doing, what we need to do to make the business better, and are we meeting the budgets?
That is, and if you look at 320, if anyone's in 320 this semester, it was actually thanks to Alan who said people need more things in their portfolio. I think you mentioned that, Alan, did you? How
Yes.
the assignments I've changed up this semester, which is what we're working for a redesign of 320, is now each report has to look professional, which means they're not including code. They're not including output that looks kind of like scattered. We need nice composed tables. We've been using flex tables in R. We've been using ggplots in R. So we're trying to make really nice composed output, and that's what I think the higher up wants to see, right? They want to read a report where it's very easy, clear. You get graphics, and you can just explain to them maybe in a PowerPoint or a presentation, like, here's what we see here, here's what we see here, this is where we're going, and these are our suggestions.
Yes, because especially if you're giving a technical report to someone who might not be, might not be knowledgeable in data analytics, for instance. Say a client that you have is like, hey, send me a report with these visualizations. They don't really care much about the code behind it, just more about the overall results that you get afterwards. So I think that's a really good thing to do for your class, which is really good that you changed it up to make it like that. Yeah.
I really want once again, I'm so proud to have you here, and please, Thomas and anyone else, ask more questions. I've got a whole bunch to go off right here, and I do want to mention Dr. Petrie uses Tableau. Did you take Petrie's class? He uses
Yes,
Tableau.
I
Go ahead.
did. Yes. So a lot of in your capstone class, you'll notice that you'll do a lot of visualizations. It's a very Tableau heavy class, but also you'll be able to develop apps using Shiny. But also Brian has another class where he teaches Shiny R as well, which is a really cool application to put on your portfolio. With the market and the economy right now, a lot of tech jobs are doing layoffs, and the opportunities for data analytics is like getting fewer and fewer, and you're competing with people with experience. But if you're not able to find an internship, what's the best alternative to put something on your resume? And that's to build your portfolio.
And I want to say one of the best things about business analytics versus statistics is we're part of the Haslam College of Business. And so not only are you getting a degree with kind of a skill set where you can analyze data, but also you're getting a degree with a business background. So, just kind of maybe outside of business analytics, kind of the core classes within Haslam, how did that set you up for success? Like maybe your finance, your accounting. Shouts to all those great professors like Dr. Kelly, Dr. Cole, lots of great professors across all the departments in Haslam.
Yes. So, especially right now, since I'm working with like a finance project, having knowledge of like the simple, basic like financial terminology is really useful. So like, and also like knowing how to like balance out a balance sheet as well from like a finance and accounting standpoint. I didn't think that I would get into like doing a financial project, but you never know what could happen in the workplace. Sometimes things just happen, and just like all the other classes that you take. So a lot of things that we do at PepsiCo, we do a lot of presentations. So being able to present to leadership and also to everybody in general is very important. So thank you to the public speaking professor I had. Really taught me really well how to present. But also Petrie's class has I think there was a assignment that we had to do where we had to do a presentation. So I think a lot of it is having to just like think of all your courses that you're taking and think of all the skills that you learn from each course. Whether you think it's important or not, one way or another, you'll eventually use those skills.
And that's what it is when it comes to, I'm gonna just keep promoting Haslam right here. But
Yep.
when it comes to the Haslam core curriculum, we actually have committees that meet on it that are very exact on like, what is this class teaching? What software does it use? How does it fit into the bigger puzzle of the Haslam education? And it's really been worked on so hard by everyone from the deans to Beth Maney, who works within the college, who's always helping keep everything running smoothly. So, got to shout out my favorite people, all my favorite people in Haslam. But with this right here, a big thing you've also mentioned, I want to touch on another thing here, is data cleaning. Because I think one area we've let students down on, and I've done it too often, is just giving them nice data like Survey 10. You probably know Survey 10.
Oh
My
yeah.
favorite data, Survey 10. No one forgets Survey 10 if you take class with me. It's got nice, easy variable names, nice, clean data. What percent of the time do you have to clean data?
It's I clean it anytime I get any data. Like for instance, somebody provides me with data set. You always want to look through it, and so anytime I get a data set, I always look through it and clean it because without cleaning data, then there's a lot of things that could skew the data or just like mess with the data overall, or things that you don't really think are important to showcase to leadership. Like there's just like, for instance, there's a column where it's like, well, I don't really need this in my analysis. You could just take it out and stuff like that. So ultimately, I do a lot of like data cleaning on a day-to-day basis. Yes.
That is what I kind of expected. I definitely want, if you told me you've never cleaned data at PepsiCo, I'd be shocked. And they must have really good data storage and cleaning because the first thing we do when we get data is look at it and try to understand our data because how are you going to analyze something if you don't know what the data means? And so if we're
Right.
going to communicate the results, we have to get our data nice and neat and cleaned up. And I guess, probably people are wondering because I'm going to put sections under this so people can see. I just want to say a huge success because you graduated in August and started working for PepsiCo in August, you said, right?
Yes.
That's I think a lot of students are probably thinking, "Wow, I'd love to do that. Like graduate, get my job. There we go." What advice do you have for students who are probably going to be applying for jobs, and how did you find your success?
Yes, so a lot of it is mainly just thinking about what strengths you have as an individual and also practicing those interview skills to tailor to your strengths, as a candidate. Because a lot of the times recruiters they're looking for someone who's unique over all the other candidates. So think of like ways to make yourself sound unique as a candidate in the interview process, but also looking at job postings as well. Does this job description match the career that I wanted to get into? Does this company mission statement and value align with what my missions or what I value in a company? Because the thing that you want to do is you want to find a company that really matches what you want to do, but also like cares about you as an individual as well. So that was like my advice as well, but also reach out to connections as well. Using your connections to get into any specific company or any specific role is very important. And make sure to be very active on LinkedIn. You never know. Companies that you might not even think of, like you can get into, you can always reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn, talk to them about the position, and they could also refer you as well to any position that you're interested in.
And especially these companies, when they come to UT, I tell my students if you see people in the bottom of Haslam looking around and they're in that student engagement center, they want to talk to you. They're there for a reason. Like their bosses who send them there to recruit at UT are like, please meet the students, come back and tell us about these amazing candidates because we want to hire them. So if you have your elevator pitch ready and you're ready to talk to them, hey, sometimes they have a donut or a Chick-fil-A sandwich. You never know. That's a double benefit. You get to talk about a job and you get a free sandwich. But we have a question from Meath right here. And they said, what skills should we have to get an analytics internship at PepsiCo? So really good question. And we'll probably have our people come back and talk about internships again. I'd be honored to have them back. But go ahead, take it away, Alan.
So, one good thing about PepsiCo as a company is that they actually value people learning a lot of different skill sets. So, whether you have the skills or you don't have the skills, they will teach you. And so, even like applying for this full time position, say I didn't have Power BI skills and I didn't have like, what was another one? Oh, yes, Power Apps, Power Automate, and just like Azure DevOps knowledge. And PepsiCo as a company really values, new talent because that new talent is kind of what they like put in their mission statement or their values. Like they value bringing new talent and bringing that like different perspective as like recent college hires because a lot of the workplaces like there's different ranges of age, and so bringing a different perspective into the workplace is very important to PepsiCo. So I guess some skills that I would suggest for PepsiCo going into an internship is, you know, since you're taking business analytics, just like keeping up with R, because you never know, you could be in a project using R. If you're taking the SQL course, that's also great. They also really, really love people who have SQL knowledge as well. But even if you don't have the skill sets, they are willing to teach you everything you need for the industry.
And that's such a good answer is that these companies know that they're not, especially for internships, they're not hiring someone who has a career's worth of knowledge and can build them a whole Power BI, platform for them to work with. They're wanting someone to grow and probably lead into a job. And one thing I've noticed, I had my internship so long ago. I won't mention the other company because we're all PepsiCo tonight. But in my interview, I was told by the person who interviewed me they liked that I asked questions. So they gave me like 5 analytics questions. They were asking me about like interactions in plots, and they were asking me about correlation matrices and asking me to interpret it to like someone like a boss. And then when I said, well, how'd I do? And they said you got 4 out of 5, and I was like, darn it. I said, which one did I miss? And can you explain it to me? And they said that was one of the things I liked because I was very interested in, I wanted to know, how can I grow? And that's what companies want is they want someone they can grow as talent. And like you mentioned, the atmosphere. And I'm so glad to hear Pepsi has such a good atmosphere because you want a company that values you not as a worker, but as a person and has those opportunities. And Thomas has a question right here. I know there is a big job fair coming up on the 21st. We got to advertise for that. But are there any other job fairs or opportunities specific to the College of Business that I should be aware of? Ooh, well, I'm going to answer really quick here, Alan, and then I'll let you give some thoughts. Thomas, if you're ever around Haslam College of Business, I would say just walk into it. Just swing by the bottom next to Einstein's. And if you see a company they're recruiting and they seem like something you're interested in, there's a whole range of companies that have swung by, but they usually have something. And I think, see you, Meet. Good to see you here. I don't know if Mark Willoughby has the information on who's usually there, but there might be a list. Alan, your thoughts on this, on about being around UT and looking for job fairs and stuff?
Yes, so as Brian mentioned, just going into Haslam, sometimes they'll have companies at the atrium, just with their little like table and like their display of what company they are. Going to them and talking to them about whether it's a company that you just never thought of or never heard of. You never know what cool things you could run into. So going to the atrium, on kind of like I usually go in person a lot. So like I always looked at what companies were under the atrium, but also going to career fairs is also another like thing to do as well because there's so many companies there. There's so many recruiters. That's kind of like your uh, basically essentially a job fair gives you the opportunity to talk to a recruiter that instead of having an AI scan your resume and just like reject you instantly, this is your way to talk to the recruiter, get the recruiter to know who you are as a person and as a candidate, And so that's like a good way to kind of like look at job opportunities and whatnot. Also, looking at any companies that you might be interested in as well. For instance, I think IBM or like Deloitte had something on their website where you can sign up with like your email or something like that, and they'll also like send out like job postings to you, or even I think there's like information sessions sometimes well where they'll like send out a meeting, and if you're like interested in IBM, they'll like hold an information session and talk about like the company, what positions, and also you get to like meet new people as well.
And I think what I really like about I'm just gonna keep gloating about Haslam College of Business. Right, you're gonna hear mention that like 1,000 times. Is we're proud of you, Alan, because we want you to find a job that you like, that pays well, that has a career you want, and you're proud of your degree. And that's the goal: is give you a skill set, give you these tools, and then you get to come back and talk to students. And we're going to ask a few more questions here, but if anyone's watching this in the future, maybe this video is like a year old now. Who knows? You're watching this, and maybe you went to UT, or maybe you're watching this now. If you want to come back and talk to students about your company and the things you've learned that helped you, let us know. But Alan, I'm going to ask you a critical question right here. You ready? Got to do a little critical with
Yes.
Brian. Okay, if Brian could improve the business analytics program, what could Brian do? I need to know your thoughts. What could I do? Maybe I'm doing it now. You don't know, but what could we do to improve the business analytics program? Let us know.
Okay. So, I mean, since I stopped by your last class, and you've been talking about like building a portfolio and stuff like that, think about like taking a Kaggle like data set and think of like what analytical tools can I, use with it, and also make an app out of it as well. A lot of companies really value apps that can do a lot of things. For instance, like a movie recommendation app is like some shows to showcases to an employer that you have the capabilities of building an app that can also show like your app development skills, but also like your analytical skills as well. I think that that's like a huge thing that you could implement in your class. That way they can build their portfolio, but also make them stand out as a candidate.
Can you see the stream right now? Can you like actually see the YouTube stream?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to see something. And I think, yes, I'm just showing it just says 6 out of 41 graded. Here was week 3 assignment. So can you see what week 3 assignment says on it? What I just want you to see, because you gave a suggestion. I'm going to turn off the hacker man in the background right there. So the week 3 assignment was working
The
with,
associations with Kaggle data.
yep,
Okay.
they had to find a Kaggle data set that they liked, that they thought was interesting to themselves. I think I was saying, Brian, one step out. I'm so happy we didn't plan this. And if you want, here, I'll put up the 2 seconds later. I don't know if you saw this. I'll show you one last thing right here, but you mentioned making an app. I got this fixed up during the end of class today because the student was really interested in 201. So I built this tiny little app, and I'll show you what this app does right here. So I wanted to show students what it's capable of. And so this is the app right here. It is a Shiny app. So Alan was mentioning Shiny right here. And the app lets you look up a Brady and it puts their picture right down there on the bottom of the screen, because it's actually looking that up, and you can look them up by season and compare stats. I should put a second comparison here, but we got to do a little Peyton Manning in here. So you can bring up Peyton Manning right there and look at the different seasons, and you've got the GG box plots. So it's all being done right here with all the graphics being done. Just a small app loading from the NFL Fast R. I'm going to head back over to the interview screen, but I really like those suggestions right there, Alan. Oh, I'm still gone. I'll reappear right here.
Yes.
Really good suggestions. What other suggestions do you have? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it so we can show people what we're doing, so we can use real data. And I want students to be excited about the data they're analyzing. I want them to be like, oh man, people are analyzing Destiny 2 data. People are analyzing candy bars and Disney movies. And because Kaggle's got like 200,000 data sets. But go ahead, Alan.
Yes. Yes. Another thing I would recommend is also using Power BI. I know that Tableau is great, but a lot of the industry is more focused on Power BI as like a visualization tool. So maybe we could do like, it's great that we have Tableau, but also maybe implementing a little bit of Power BI into the curriculum would also be a good thing as well.
Well, next week, I'm just kidding. I was going to say next week they're using Power BI all next week. But a lot of these, especially Power BI, I think Power BI, I've only used it the most. I've used Tableau more than I've used Power BI, but most of
Mhm.
these are kind of like drag, drop, and kind of GUI graphical user interface. Like Tableau is a graphical user interface. You're not really coding in Power BI much, are you?
No, I'm not really coding. It's more the drag drop. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, but the thing is the possibilities to make the dashboards in it are just endless. It's up to your imagination.
Oh,
And I think
yes.
that's. Let me ask you this, Alan. On a more
Mhm.
personal note, do you have any like, or do you play music? Are you a very creative person? Because I've noticed that can really help us in the analytics world. Go ahead, Alan.
So I do like to sing. I don't play any instruments, but I guess the most musical thing I have is singing. Yeah. But yes.
Oh, that's cool. You don't have like a
Uh,
YouTube channel where you sing, do you?
no, not
Or,
yet.
or you can
Not yet.
plug your socials. Is that what the kids say? I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
which I also just saw Hayden Morris. Thank
Yeah.
you for the shout out. Hayden is great. Great person to like hang out with. He has heard me rap and
Oh,
sing. So
can we?
yes.
If you want, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you want to do a PepsiCo rap?
Oh,
I don't
kind of
know. Wait,
hard.
or rap about statistics or business analytics if you want. And then we got a big question here about Chat GPT. We can do that next. Here, I'll let you think that one over, but I'll let you. It's on you. Thoughts on Chat GPT?
So Chat GPT, I've heard a lot about it. Um, I mean, I haven't really heard anybody at PepsiCo really use it. But I think it's kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't use it as like a shortcut way to just like cheat your way through everything because if you just use Chat GPT, you're not really learning how to code, right? But say you're confused about something, so like you ask Chat GPT a specific question that can guide you to the right direction. That would be like a good way to use it instead of just saying, "Hey, just code this entire thing for me." Because then if you just claim I have coded, like for instance, if someone just asks you to code something and you just use Chat GPT to just code it for you and just claim that, hey, I have this coding skill, and then eventually they find out that you use Chat GPT to just like do it for you, then you can get into like a lot of trouble. Yeah.
I really like that answer too because I've been using like a bot that I have access to kind of look at some new codes and to ask it to
Mhm.
code like some ggplot graphics or use some packages. Like I'll be like, hey, make this graphic with this data set using this package and add these features to it. And it can do it in like 10 seconds. Now, I'd say
Yeah.
about 60% of the time it's accurate. And I do want to mention this. Dr. Petrie and I tested this out with some of his questions for his, I think I can say that, I guess, like we tested it out and I gave him a, I guess he was blinded. I guess I knew the answer. So it was only blinded where he doesn't know the answers. I read him the bot's answer to his question and my answer. And I think I made a low A on his test. He's very particular. Have you ever taken a Petri test?
No, we didn't take any exams in this class.
Petri is notorious for having the hardest exams and like he gloats that no one gets hundreds. I made a low A on his exam. The bot made like a very low C, high D because some of its answers were really not touching upon the things. Maybe I just know Petrie well enough to know what he wanted. And I was so
Mhm.
bummed when he would hear my answer. He'd be like, well, that's really good, but it should also include this in the answer. And I was like, darn it. He wants every minute detail. I got to be
Yeah.
more precise in every answer. But if he says I have a low A in knowledge, I'll be honored by Dr. Petrie, who's an expert. And then we have another question right here. Do you find yourself automating any of your everyday tasks? That's really cool through code.
Yes. I always, as someone in IT, you should always think about automating any process. You don't want to find yourself just, manually doing work because that doesn't really bring a lot of value. Because time is very important to a company. If you find a way to automate something, then that makes it better for the company. And who knows, like my manager always says this as well. Say you leave the company tomorrow, right? All that knowledge that you have leaves the door with you. So if you build an automated process that will do the work for you, like even after you leave the company, that brings a lot of value to it because say you left the company tomorrow and then somebody takes your position and that automation or and you were just manually doing that work every day and that same person does that same work, just doesn't really bring a lot of value because it's just still doing the same thing every single time. So just automating it and then being able to do like a another cool project instead, you know? And also creating automations and just like being able to automate something uh, showcases like, hey, I have skills. Like I can think of a way to like do this quicker and efficient as well. And also, it brings you a lot of like a lot of leadership people will start noticing you as well. Like they'll start giving you projects and stuff like, hey, can you automate this for me? Can you automate this for me? And it ultimately brings a lot of value to the company.
I think that's one of the best things to look for in a company. I'm really lucky. We got another good question here. I'm really lucky with UT because um, you want a company that when you're putting in like really great work, automating stuff, the fear is that maybe the company says, well, we don't need you. You automated everything. Thank you for your work. We'll just use your automation now. But a really great company, which PepsiCo, shouts to them, is going to say, wow, you've got skills. You're super duper valuable. We want to keep you happy. We want to give you new fun things that excite you. And I'll ask this question. I know a lot of companies have like an 80-20 policy where it's like 80% of work is like directly company focused and 20% is like your own visions, your own. Does Pepsi have anything like that? I've heard of some companies I know of where they want you to kind of bring your own imagination, your own ideas, and make up kind of your own projects. Have you thoughts on that?
So I have actually never heard of that at PepsiCo, but I have heard it with other companies. But I think that ultimately depends on your manager as well. My manager, he really values like different perspectives and different ideas of doing like projects or just doing anything in general. So anytime he gives me a project, he doesn't limit me to just using this specific tool or this specific tool. It's like, Alan, what do you think about? So I'm going to give you this project. What tools would you use? And I'm just going to let you do the project on your own. So I have the opportunity to creatively think of what tools do I have in my skill sets? What new skills do I want to learn? And how would I be able to bring this project to the company? Now, I've heard with other teams, they're like, hey, I want you to use this tool. I want you to use this tool. So my answer to that would be it really depends on your manager. Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm stressing in 320 right now is we just did an assignment with, you mentioned categorical data a long time ago. So we were just doing mosaic plots, contingency tables, marginal conditional distributions. And some of the questions came up like, well, how do you want this to look? And I was just like, professional.
Yeah.
What kind of graphics do you want? Graphics that convey the information.
Mhm.
And then I want you to tell me the statistical and practical significance. And I want it to be in a way people can understand who aren't going to hear like a p-value of 0.0001, which is below the alpha level of zero point zero 0.05, was found to be statistic. No. We want to tell people we think this is a real difference and this is what we're going to make decisions on, and then report the values about the percentages. And there's a silly question in the chat I see right there. Do you see it? I can't say the word or else I'm going to ruin it. Adam asked, go ahead. I'll let you take it away.
Uh, Silly question, but as a data analyst, I have to know how he pronounces SQL. Okay, it depends. Um, Depends on who I talk to. So if I hear someone say SQL, I say SQL. If they say SQL, then I say SQL. So that's my take on it.
I say SQL Server and then I say SQL. Like when I'm talking about
Yeah,
SQL, I say SQL, and then if like it's a server, I say SQL Server. I can't imagine
yeah.
saying SQL Server. I don't know. Adam, we'll see how Adam says it. Well, I guess we'll do a few more questions here. But Alan, what are your like big thoughts or big questions that maybe you have one? Like maybe I missed over something, and we have another one right here. But go ahead, Alan. I'll let you have your thoughts. What are your big thoughts right now?
My big thoughts is like, with the whole like let's see, analytics becoming more relevant in like today's world, like where do you let me think of it. I have the thoughts in my head. I'm just trying to like put it into words. Um, I guess where do you see analytics going in the future for students?
Where do I?
Yes.
I think when it comes down to it, and this is why I've put more pressure on 320, is Analytics has been growing for the last decade almost exponentially. Like you go back, I mean, you think about Moneyball, that revolutionized sports, and then it led into hockey and NBA. And people think of sports analytics, they're like, oh, they're trying to find the best players. No, 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 no. Those stadiums and stuff are optimizing every single thing about the concessions to the attendance to the tickets to you name it to the parking. Everything's optimized. You go to Disney and they're optimizing where to put, the things that shoot the water to keep everyone cool. Everything's optimized. Everything's analytical.
Hmm.
So you have to be good at what you do. If
Yes,
if you
definitely.
are, coming out with, sadly, I'm talking to myself here. I wasn't an A student in school, but companies are going to not be so interested in the C and D and maybe even lower B analytics students. The companies come in and they say, "Who's your best?" Like I've had companies say that to me, like, "Who's some all stars?" They want to scoop up those all stars because the need for analytics is more so than ever, and it's not just big companies like PepsiCo. I mean, even my sister who does real estate, she's got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets and is constantly analyzing data. She's not running p values, but she's always looking at her data to make decisions on what to do and looking at the returns on events she does and then changing.
Mhm.
So, we might see changes to how analytics is used, especially with like chat GPT and stuff. But the idea that we're ever going to go away from data driven decisions, that's here to stay.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Another thing that I really like that you said earlier as well, with like when students ask you what visualizations should I provide, what should I say with this in my report and stuff like that. That's really good because that's like kind of what leadership is looking for, especially with like if you're working for a company as well. It's really important just to think about what the higher ups are thinking as like what they want to see, so that's really good that you implemented that in your class as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I want people to be proud of what the work they make. And I'm hoping in 320 this semester, someone could bring it to a career fair or pull it up, like bring an iPad and just say, just want you to see what I'm doing in my classes here. Here's some of the reports I've been writing. This is a sample report with some Kaggle data. And do people at like PepsiCo know of the website Kaggle, which we've mentioned already? And then Benjamin has a question.
So when I was doing my interview and I was talking about one of the projects that I did, I used Kaggle. My manager didn't really know what Kaggle was, so I kind of just went through like a little run through of what Kaggle was, and he like looked into it and was like, "Oh, this is really cool." It just really depends on like the person. Some people know what Kaggle is. Like I've talked to some managers at PepsiCo, and they're like, "Oh, I know what Kaggle is," and some really don't know what it is. So yeah, but it's like really cool that there's like a place with data and like the projects that you're doing, you're allowing students to pick what really interests them, because it's like if you're really interested in a specific data set, you sound more passionate in an interview talking about what you did in that project rather than just doing something that's just like, oh, I just put on my resume and this is what I did steps 1 to 8. Instead, you're talking about, oh, I'm really passionate about this project because I was able to do this, this, and this, and this is why I'm interested in it. And this is the value that, like, because I'm passionate about this, and maybe there's a project that's similar to it and within the company, I want to do something similar to that project, for instance.
And this kind of leads into the question right here from Benjamin, which I might answer just briefly. And I'm going to go over to the main screen again real quick. Is we're talking a lot about Kaggle in the moment here, and Kaggle is a site that hosts competitions. They have data sets right here, so you can see GoDaddy. They do stuff with the NFL, and this is real money right here. So, if you're looking, Pedro's question is, and I'll read it off here. I'm looking for some sort of business analytics project that would be fun, educational, and set me apart from other job candidates. Any suggestions on projects or where to learn? So Kaggle has discussion boards, they have codes, they have data sets. You got Taylor Swift, Spotify, and those are some of the data sets we were looking over for the class. But lots of cool stuff you can do. And I would definitely suggest jumping into this right here. Let me jump back to you here and let me go find it.
Mhm.
Interview to person. What suggestions would you have for Matthew in the chat right there? Or Benjamin in the chat right there.
Um, Honestly, like just any data set that you're really interested in. Because What recruiters and what managers are looking for is someone who like is passionate about what they're doing and can showcase their passion and their analytical skills. For instance, since you're going into business analytics, like what specific data sets do you look at and you're like, oh, I really want to do a project on that, or oh, I really want to build an app on that, you know? A lot of managers and recruiters, they're not really picky on like, oh, you have to use like, for instance, oh, you have to do like a project on sports. Oh, you have to do a project on like something related to like education, stuff like that. They really just want to see what skills you bring to the industry and what makes you unique with the skills that you bring.
That's exactly it. It's about being passionate about what you do, having a skill set. They want someone who wants to be there, wants to learn, and they look at you as not just someone who's going to be producing work for them, but someone they're going to work with, someone who's going to be on their team. And that's really great. As a team, you get to grow together and learn. And I think we have a few more. Something important to me is always finding new and good ways to explain and show data graphics to people who might not understand the coding and what the numbers mean. So, how important is it that I know this is kind of a repeat question, but the ability to create great graphics, where would you put that in
It's
the list of skill sets?
It's very important because, again, with leadership, they don't want to know the code behind what you do. They don't want to know the data set that you got provided. They just want to see visualizations that basically explain the analytics behind it. Mhm.
Like, they want to know, what's the point? What are we going to
Yeah,
do? What did we learn? And
yeah,
yeah, so then all the code, all the 200 lines you write, all the hours you spend just to make one visualization, well,
mhm.
hopefully it communicates what you want. And Hayden said, I read an interesting article recently on a Yale med student getting banned from sports betting. Is this likely due to his data analytics skills and generating too many wins? Thoughts on that? I don't know.
I haven't read this article yet, but I mean, I guess the dangerous thing about being a data analyst is you can manipulate the data to what you want to display, you know?
Hmm.
So, you can always manipulate the data to showcase something that you're, like biased towards or something like that. So, um, maybe it is due to his data analytical skills, but I'm not too sure.
Well, you
Yeah.
bring up such a great point, is that, there's the famous law, there's lies, there's darn lies, and there's statistics. But the thing is when you work at a company, if you use statistics to tell half truths, it's going to start to catch up to you. When you do
Mhm,
projections on the profit, and you say, oh, if we launch this product in this region, well, then we should see a 10% increase in profit. And maybe you give a margin of error, you're like plus or minus 4% confidence interval, right? 95% confident. And then they're like,
mhm,
oh, and then you're like, oh, this was the 5% of the time that it wasn't contained in the interval. And then they do it again. You're like, oh, well, 5% times 5%. So that's 1 in 400. That happens. We win the lottery every once in a while. And then it happens four more times. And they're like, your 95% confidence levels aren't turning out so correct. So it's going to start
right,
to eventually catch up to you if you're supplying information that doesn't work. And that's why we have things. So one last advertisement I'll give for our upper level classes is, we have a way of checking our work with a holdout sample. So if we want
mhm,
to know if our model really works, we use it on data that the model hasn't even seen. So are we really making that go to a model? Let's test it out on something that doesn't know the data. And if it works, it works. It's not by random chance. And have you seen any of that? Like, what's your experience with that kind of uh, data analytics at PepsiCo? I don't know how specific you can be, but thoughts on that?
thoughts on, like, the confidence intervals or
Sure.
what
Confidence intervals
specific?
in 201, test and train data, a holdout data in BS 474, regression in 320, correlation throughout all our classes,
Mhm,
neural nets 474. I'm giving shout outs
mhm.
to time series 475 with ARIMA models and exponential smoothing. I'm going to mention every topic across every class, but go ahead, Alan, floor's yours.
Yes, so with the little amount of time that I was able to use R in my like job that or in my position, I did find that I used a little bit of confidence intervals and also regressional logistical regressions models to showcase my findings. Nothing really focused more on like neural networks or nothing really in 474. It was more focused on 320. Mhm.
So 320 is the class with a lot of the tools, right? Sounds like 320s.
Yes.
Yeah, and I definitely want every class we teach people to be a class they can use. So I'm always looking to improve these classes. Well, Alan, I want to give you the last words here, and I just want to say thank you again. Really interesting. And Adam's saying I did some ARIMA modeling with forecasting today at work. So Alan's using that ARIMA model right there, some time series. But Alan, the last word is yours. Take it away.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody who showed up to this live stream, and also thank you guys for being interested in PepsiCo as a company. We are currently on our career page. We are we have applications for internships and also full-time positions. So I can quickly just show you how to
Sure.
access that page real quick. And also, I can also provide you with my work email so that you can put me down as a referral if you're interested in working at PepsiCo.
And if you
And
want,
also,
go ahead and screen share. I'm gonna go to
yeah,
the main screen right here, and I
mhm,
think I can bring over your screen share. So go ahead and screen share on the Discord,
yes, let me do that.
and let's see. It's bringing up. There we go. Okay, so I think if I just bring over the Discord camera over here to the main screen. So one moment, Discord guest camera. Oh, yeah, you're showing right there. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
remove this. Here, let me full screen this here a little bit. Okay, there's the Discord guest camera. And I'm cropping the window a little bit here. Boop. There
yeah.
we go. Okay, so you'll be in the bottom corner right here. 2 seconds as we get things looking all good over here. Here you go. You are in the bottom corner. And you're good to go, Alan. You are
Okay.
here. You go. You're on.
Perfect. So if you go on Google and you put like PepsiCo careers, you go onto their website, and what you want to do is, once this loads, is you want to click on the student section and click United States. Um, Once that loads, you can look at summer internship programs here, or you can look at recent grad opportunities here. If you click on recent grads, it'll filter into both internships and full-time positions. And here you'll be able to look at, all the job postings that PepsiCo has for recent grads and also people looking for internships. My email, I can provide my work email. For you guys to put me down as like a referral if you're interested. So, for instance, if you're applying for this, say, this full-time position, you click apply, and what you'll do is within the application, there'll be a question that asks, do you know somebody from the company or do you know a sponsor from that company? And all you really have to do is put in my work email. Um, and then you just do the whole application, and I think HR will like send me an email or something to like finish out the referral part. And then another thing you can do is you can also reach me on LinkedIn as well. I'm always looking for connections and also just helping people in general. My LinkedIn, if you want to look up the URL, it's right here. And I can give that to Brian in the chat and he can provide that to you. And I'll also type in my work email as well.
And if
Too.
I'm adding it here in the chat, I'm tagging these right here. Oops, I think I clicked the wrong Alan tongue right there. Let me go right here. Don't worry, I didn't post theirs.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so here we go. We're posting yours in the chat here. Information Technology Associate Analyst at PepsiCo. And
Yes.
then here we go with your LinkedIn in the chat. And so there is Alan's LinkedIn in the chat right there pinned. And then is that the best way to reach out to you, would you say?
Yes, you can reach out to me on Discord as well.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Discord. You can even email me with my PepsiCo email. And yeah, even if if it's even if it like you're not interested in PepsiCo, I can also help you with that as well. Whether that's preparing you for interviews, telling you what skills you need for the industry, or even me looking at your resume as well. I'm always out there looking to help people. I think that is really important, especially at this time with the market and economy. People are not able to like find internships or full-time jobs. And I think that, as someone who just recently graduated and someone who always just, especially taking the time now to just talk about what I do for my job, I always want to help people find the careers they're looking for and just get a job overall after graduation. So I'm willing to help in that sense as well.
Awesome. And I'm gonna leave here. I'm gonna turn off the Discord camera right here. Boo! I should reappear now. Should I wait? Where am I? Oh, I'm behind the 2 hours later. I'm usually on the top layer. There we go. I'm back now. So, and thank you, Alan, so much. We'll head back over to the main screen. And so we dropped your LinkedIn in the chat. Adam's already sent you a connect right there. And I think that's
Yes.
really the best way. Like, email is great, but the best way to connect is to connect on LinkedIn, send a message, say, hey, I'm a UTK student. Just wanted to reach out. Let me go back here to the interview screen, make sure I have everything set up properly. Because really, one thing you mentioned at the start is the LinkedIn profile is very
Mhm.
like having that sort of professional profile and building contacts. That's going to be one of your best ways to find companies and to let companies know that you're out there looking for a job. Any advice on LinkedIn or growing that for our last question right here?
Yes, so there's actually a way to like put that you're looking for positions on LinkedIn. So if you go into like your profile and you say open to, and then you put in the specific like job titles that you're interested in and what cities that you're interested in going to, that allows recruiters from those states and those companies to also reach out to you, and send you like messages like, "Hey, I saw that you are interested in this specific industry, this specific job position, and you're also interested in this city. So here's a job posting." Or you could also just search on LinkedIn like the job posting and entry level right next to it, and just look at specific companies and roles that are offering, the jobs that you're looking for, but also the location as well. And also just reaching out to connections as well. So if you're interested in, say, like, uh, for instance, Deloitte, and you have a connection to Deloitte, make sure to reach out to that connection and be like, "Hey, I saw that you worked at LinkedIn or you worked at Deloitte, and I'm really interested in learning about the company and also the position that you're in right now." And that way, they'll be able to set up like a one-on-one meeting with you and talk about what they do and also about the company. And just reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn as well is also another important thing to do.
It's
If you,
number, you just said it. It's all about making contacts, communication, and knocking on doors.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's some great advice right there, Alan. Just, keep working at it because you really only need one great job. I
Mhm.
mean, if you get
Yes.
that great job, you start growing your skill set and start working, then you've got a lot of opportunities. Well, Alan, any final thoughts? It's your time to say goodbye. I just want to say a huge thank you for being here tonight. And thank you to everyone who watched. We had a Hood in the chat, who would meet in the chat, Adam and Hayden. But your final thoughts, take it away, Alan.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for showing up to this live stream again. I hope that this live stream provided you with information about what it's like to work at PepsiCo, kind of what to expect in my position, but also it's not just limited to what I do. There's different analyst positions within PepsiCo. I know that I work for EDAP, and there's other EDAP teams that do different projects. So just take what I say as a grain of salt, and also just think about like, oh, what do I want to do within PepsiCo? Or, oh, what companies am I interested in? And also, like, if you want to apply to PepsiCo's internship programs, full-time positions, feel free to reach out to me. I can help you with the application. Also, prepare you with internships, or not internships, interview like practice and whatnot, resume help. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope it was super helpful. And yeah, hello Ahud and hello Hayden. Haven't seen you guys in so long. I hope you guys are doing well at UT. Hope like if I'm in Knoxville next time, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alan. And please reach out to Alan if you have questions. We've got the LinkedIn in the chat, got the jobs at PepsiCo. But as we like to say here, bye for now, everyone. Bye.